Welcome into the Talkin Tide podcast on the Pigskin Podcast Network. I'm Chase Goodbread, sports columnist with the Tuscaloosa News, and joined as always by Travis Reier, the longtime senior analyst at BamaOnline.com. You can get the Talkin Tide podcast through our Twitter feed. We link them all there. The handle is Twitter is Talkin_Tide. I think that's two podcasts in a row. I've flubbed that handle. Talkin_Tide is the Twitter handle. And of course, you can get Talkin Tide on any podcasting app you prefer, including Apple Podcasts. And we are as well available on Facebook and YouTube live. Quickly thanking sponsors: Peterborough Chocolatier of Tuscaloosa, North River Dental Associates, and DraftKings. More on each of them later in the program. Travis, we open the Sunday Nighter. Digging into a shutout victory for the Crimson Tide at home over FCS Austin Peay, 34-0. The final score. The Crimson Tide ahead just 7-0 after a quarter. Not out of the gate especially fast, but against a team that was frankly non-competitive. Alabama was able to pull away with this one in fairly short order.
They were a laborious, I guess you could call it, opening scoring drive for Alabama to take that 7-0 lead. And what would an Alabama game be, Goodbread, without some adventures in the kicking game? Another short muff punt gives an opponent a short field to work with. Alabama's able to get a stop on fourth down. A little bit of a questionable play there, maybe on 4th and goal, but a 3rd and 2 stop that was very, very impressive with Tim Smith and Jaheim Otis combining on that TFL of AP quarterback Mike Diallo. So, look, it was sleepy in some ways, a team that looked a little bit road weary after being away from Bryant-Denny Stadium the previous 2 games, and a game in which Alabama just got done what it needed to get done.
That bounce off that punt caught Kendrick Law by surprise, didn't it? It was
that's such a tough spot, man.
Yeah.
Some punts are so awful that they end up being great,
Yeah.
And that was the case in the Tennessee game too. Although, that was Q Robinson basically just kind of, I'm still convinced on that one. Q Robinson, because he's on the punt coverage and punt return team, I'm still convinced he may have thought that he was covering a punt on that play and was like going to touch it dead. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to find some answers still for that one.
Yeah, I heard in the press box, can't recall exactly who uttered it, but when the Kendrick Law muff happened, Robinson's name came up, and I'm like, nah, don't even go there, because the two aren't even comparable, at least in terms of
right
mental mistakes. One was just a giant brain fart. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, one was intentionally touched.
Right.
Yeah.
So definitely, but that one didn't get things off to a very good start. They end up getting 156 yards on the ground out of Jason McClellan, 17 carries. Couple of touchdowns for him. A lot of running the ball for Alabama in this game, Travis. You knew Nick Saban just preferred, as he always does in games like this, he wants to get in and out in as few snaps as possible, it seems like. And he certainly was able to do that in pretty short. The game flew by time-wise. I don't know what the game time was. I should look at the box score and see how long it lasted. But it's like I blinked and we're halfway through the 4th quarter,
Well, and they needed to run it because they hadn't hit 200 rushing yards since the A&M game back on October the 8th. So, they needed some work in that area. And you're right, Jason McClellan now essentially in the last 6+ quarters or so, 240 rushing yards going back to the Ole Miss performance. So good for him. Good to get some guys rested that are dinged up a little bit. Didn't like seeing Tyler Steen go down there late in the 2nd quarter, not with an Auburn team coming up who sacked Bryce Young 7 times last season down on the Plains. So some things to pay attention to as far as guys who sat out the game, like a Jahmyr Gibbs, like a Tyler Steen, like a Cam Latu. I know Nick Saban post-game didn't sound as if any of those were serious in nature. Eli Ricks out as well. So that's as much what you're going to be paying attention to coming off this performance as anything else.
Tyler Steen, definitely a topic I wanted to get into with you, Travis. That'll be kind of the way we'll peek ahead a little bit at the Iron Bowl. But just to circle back really quickly, total time elapsed, Alabama Austin Peay 3:07. I would have guessed even under 3. It seemed even quicker than that to me. But that's pretty good pace right there.
And usually you associate those type of time of plays with an option type offense that runs it 50 times in the game, throws it 6. But Austin Peay threw the ball 32, 33 times in the game. But it was good. And maybe it had something to do too with it being essentially on a streaming platform, right? This wasn't CBS. This wasn't your Saturday night primetime game with ESPN where we're getting 37,000 Dodge truck commercials or whatever the hell they're trying to feed us,
Yes, no question about it. Tyler Steen, as you noted, injured in the game. Day to day, says Nick Saban. So who knows what that'll become by Wednesday. For the moment, as we record here on the Sunday nighter, I guess you got to call them questionable. And it's a significant matter for a couple of reasons. Like you said, Auburn's pass rush just dominated Alabama. Frankly, last year, Derek Hall had 3 sacks. He's back this year.
Back.
He'll be coming after that left tackle, whoever it is. So that's something to watch for. I guess maybe is it Kite that comes in?
Amari Kite came in, yeah. We saw Elijah Pritchett with the 2s, the true freshman at left tackle late. I thought he certainly looks the part. Now I'm not insinuating that he's in any way ready for his first start in an Iron Bowl. And again, it sounded as if Steen's injury, at least listening to Nick Saban post-game, wasn't of the variety that would certainly keep him out this week. In other words, it sounds like he'll at least have a chance to go.
Certainly, yeah, and we'll know more. We'll know a lot more on Wednesday. Nick Saban will do his normal Wednesday evening press conference, even though that comes right up on the holiday, of course, Thanksgiving this week. A happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners.
Nick will probably come in there with pecan pies for everyone,
Yeah.
Nick will have some pumpkin pies, just spread them out to his media friends.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
he appreciates everything we do, Chase.
I like
thankful for us.
Yeah. Turkey, ham, the whole bit. You bet.
All the fixes.
Pack your lunch picnic style. We can retire.
Yeah, he'll take you out for that lunch like Big Dan did, out in a remote location.
Follow this advanced tutorial. Love it. All right, moving on, the Alabama basketball team, Travis, knocks off Jacksonville State, another blowout against an outmanned squad in non-conference play. The final score 104-62. The Crimson Tide once again totally dominant on the boards, out-rebounded Jacksonville State 2-1, basically. And a big night for the freshman Brandon Miller, 28 points, 7 of 9 from three-point range. A couple more in double digits. Thoughts on this one as Alabama, of course, now turns to that Phil Knight Invitational in Michigan State next week.
Yeah, 51 points in the first half and 53 in the second half for Alabama in the shellacking of the visiting Gamecocks. And, yeah, I mean, if Alabama's going to make 21 threes in a game, I don't care who they play. They're going to win those games because of what they're still capable of doing on the defensive end, and still a really good performance defensively too, and holding Jacksonville State to 62 points. So yeah, Brandon Miller, you saw why this guy is considered to be a one and done in all likelihood. It's not just the length and the athleticism, It's that he is capable of a 7-for-9 night from the 3-point stripe, which is what we saw from him in the win. And good to see Namari Burnett too kind of get it going, because that's been the expectation for him, is that, you know, he can give them some of that shooting from beyond the arc. And so good to see him with 5 threes in the game. And Noah Clowney kind of doing what he does with 10 rebounds. You look at Alabama with 49 rebounds and you think, wow, that's light for this team, because they've been 60-ish, I guess, you know, to this point. But as you said, still pretty much doubled up the Gamecocks on the glass. So 23 assists on 34 field goals. That's pretty good number too, Chase. And the turnovers at 13, 23 assists, 13 turnovers. You can pick a stat and feel good about that performance.
9 guys in double-digit minutes, and I get it. That's more normal for a non-conference blowout. Nobody had more than 28 minutes. But, Travis, I'm not so sure that won't be a pattern into the tougher parts of the schedule for Nate Oates. Maybe not necessarily 9 guys in double digits, but a disbursement of minutes that's bench-friendly, shall we say. You've got and here let us not forget, Nate Oates continues to insist that Dom Welsh is going to get minutes when he's ready to go. You got Darius Miles coming back. He's going to be looking for a handful of minutes as well. 25 minute if everybody's healthy and Nate Oates likes all the guys he seems to like so far, 25 minutes might be about as good as anybody's going to do. 30 tops.
Yeah, that too is what made Miller's performance so impressive. He scored 28 and he did it in 25 minutes. You know, yeah. So that speaks to how efficient he can be too, scoring 28 on just 12 shots from the field. And he's got that luxury, Nate Oates does, and he's talked about it pretty extensively in the preseason into the early stages of the season. And it's going to have more to do with defensive effort and those blue collar points that he is associated with so often. And so it looks like he's legitimately going to have that luxury. You know, a lot of times coaches can talk about the bench and the players know, you know, it's lip service for the most part, because at the end of the day, you still got to put the ball in the bucket, you know, and typically you'll have a team with 3 to 5 guys that are capable realistically of doing that. What we're starting to see more of is that this team, with Mark Sears going for 18, as you talked about, Miller for 28, Burnett for 18. You know, they've got some different guys. And then you still got Javon Quinterly coming back. And I know Nate has talked about keeping him on sort of a limited amount of minutes, but Javon played 17 minutes in the game and had 8 assists in that short period of time. So, a lot of good stuff. You're going to have a lot of assists when you make 21 threes. When you're making shots from the outside, the assists seem to come a lot easier.
Yeah, Jaden Bradley with 5 of those. He's looked good early as well. It's going to be interesting to see if he cuts into Sears' minutes down the stretch. Yeah,
well, and then Javon coming back.
That's right.
How they manage that. And we know Nate, he isn't, you know, it doesn't phase him to go with multiple point guards on the floor together. And these are the kind of guards that I think can complement each other pretty well in that regard.
It's we've come a long way from the days when Trevor Relaford was the only ball handler they pretty much had, you know.
Retno Basahan, you know, pretty much or bust some years.
So yeah, but
poor Ronald Steele playing 40 minutes a night on the ball. You know, I mean, damn. It's one thing to play 40 minutes in a game, but 40 minutes on the ball, that's like 60, you know, for anybody else.
I got my introduction to Brandon Miller as a draft prospect when I went to the Liberty game, Travis, and there were 2 NBA scouts, not that that's a huge number, but for 2 NBA scouts to come to a November Alabama game against Liberty. So they're there for somebody, you know, and there's absolutely no doubt who it was. I'm sure we'll see NBA scouts in significantly greater numbers once we get into the spring.
No doubt. And well, just look at what's coming up on the schedule. There's going to be plenty of NBA scouts out in Portland for the Phil Knight event with Alabama out there coming up on Thanksgiving night to take on Tom Izzo and Sparty, Michigan State. And then throughout that event. And then once again, you get into this December schedule for this team. And what is it? Memphis, Houston, Gonzaga, just about every night. Yeah, there's going to be some solid representation from the next level.
Yeah. My attention on that Alabama-Gonzaga basketball game might be somewhat split with Mike Cooley playing a solo show in Waverly, Alabama that same evening. We'll
yes,
see.
That might be a
We'll
tough
see what
one
happens there.
The stroker eight
should be interesting.
Yeah.
We've seen him in December before, Travis.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. And we will again. Yeah. Yeah.
Moving on here on the Talkin Tide podcast, going to thank a couple of sponsors here really quickly. Going to start by telling you all about North River Dental Associates and that great service you get from Dr. Jack Smalley and his great bunch of dental hygienists. A convenient location right off of Watermelon Road at 1100 Fairfax Park. They're going to get you in and out of the building on a routine cleaning, typically in under an hour. Now offering Botox and Juvederm treatments to tighten up those facial features as well. And of course, it is the highest quality dentistry you can ask for, no matter what your dental needs. The teeth whitening services at North River also extremely popular. The phone number over there, 752-3506, or you can make an appointment online. Just go to northriverdentist.com. It's North River Dental Associates.
Going to tell you about Peterbrook Chocolatier out there at 1530 McFarland Boulevard North in the Indian Hill section of Tuscaloosa. What a big week coming up at Peterbrook Chocolatier. First, you've got Thanksgiving, of course. And if you want to make or take your Thanksgiving spread to that next level, well, you need to get by Peterbrook there in the Indian Hill section of Tuscaloosa this week. So many great options for you to choose from. And of course, you got the Iron Bowl Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium. You want to make that pregame spread extra special. Let Peterbrook Chocolatier help you out. Got those Roll Tide treats for you. So many great options. Christmas orders, still taking them. 205-752-0211. Not too late to get yours in right now at Peterbrook Chocolatier, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North in the Indian Hill section of Tuscaloosa.
Finally, going to tell you about our corporate sponsor. That would be DraftKings, TPPN. That is the promo code, the Pigskin Podcast Network acronym. Use that promo code when you sign up. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the promo code, and on a $5 bet on any NFL game, if your team wins, you'll get $200 in free bets. You absolutely cannot beat that deal. As well, everyone can boost winnings with the DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. So once again, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code TPPN and get $200 in free bets if your team wins off of a $5 bet on any football game, only at the DraftKings Sportsbook using TPPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions, as always, apply. Travis will do our best to unpack what was an absolutely wild weekend of action in the Southeastern Conference. We saw South Carolina, which had scored 145 points total in its first 7 SEC games. Travis, that's my math. My lousy Bishop Kenny math says that was that's about 20 a game in the SEC. Coming into Saturday night, they turn around and hang 63 on Tennessee. Just an unbelievable night for Spencer Rattler and an awful night for Tennessee, especially now with the news that Hendon Hooker's gone down with a torn ACL. You hate to see that for him. Super season he's had.
Yeah, first and foremost, you hate that for Hendon Hooker. He deserved a better finish to his career at Tennessee and certainly to this season than the one that he has now with that ACL injury and just, boy, a catastrophic performance defensively. We knew Tennessee wasn't great on the defensive side of the ball, but a 60 burger to this South Carolina offense. And you know what? Yeah. You know what that performance does for Spencer Rattler? It gets one team, and that's all it takes in the NFL to throw that tape on and go, you know what? as that NFL draft gets a little closer, Goodbread, there's going to be that one team that says, this is the Spencer Rattler we think can quarterback our team. And
we
somebody,
can coach it
because
out
of that performance, is going to take Spencer Rattler far too high. But he was great. But again, Anthony Richardson, he's going to have that same tape because he threw for over 400 against Tennessee too. It wasn't just Bryce Young. It was Anthony Richardson and Spencer Rattler. So when you start thinking about some quarterbacks for the draft, perhaps next spring, they're all going to be pushing that Tennessee tape, right, to those teams and saying, look at this, But you're right. I thought it was going to be a sleepy day in the league, and it was not.
What's going to happen to that Spencer Rattler draft stock if he turns around and lights up Clemson for about 350
or 400 it's just going to be. He could end up being a first-round pick, late first. I mean, if you just watch the guy stand there and throw the football, it is impressive. And when he gets into his zone like that, when he's locked in like that, it legitimizes everything we had heard about him going back to his high school days before he went to Oklahoma. It was all on display. But again, Tennessee just absolutely atrocious on the defensive side. It wasn't just Spencer Rattler. I mean, South Carolina converted a tight end. They have so many injuries at running back. They convert a tight end, was it Jaheim Bell, to running back? And he looks like Marshawn Lattimore in 2010 against Alabama and some other teams. I mean, that's how bad Tennessee is defensively. So we can talk about Heupel and this tempo and the explosive plays and all those things, but if there isn't some improvement made, a commitment made to the defensive side of the ball at some point, I think 2 losses, is pretty much the best Tennessee fans are going to be able to kind of hope for in seasons like this.
If you're a 5-star on the defensive side of the ball, you're looking at an opportunity for playing time there if you want to go.
If you want to go, yeah. It's just Heupel likes to get the ball back quick. I'll say that for the Tennessee defense against South Carolina, they were getting the ball back to that Tennessee offense. They weren't keeping South Carolina off the scoreboard, but give Shane Beamer a lot of credit too, man, because that team was awful against Florida the previous week in Gainesville. And to come back that quickly and play that well, I think South Carolina got 2 teams beat on Saturday based on how they played against Florida. I think South Carolina probably helped get Florida beat at Vanderbilt Saturday. Florida probably thought, hey, we've really turned a corner here, and Vanderbilt's coming up, no big deal. And then they go up to Nashville and get beat. And if you're Tennessee and you see that Florida tape, you're thinking, these guys suck. And we also know Georgia had gone in there and just bombed South Carolina earlier in the season. Tennessee thinks that it is Georgia. It is not. We found that out Saturday night. And so I think South Carolina's stinker in Gainesville a week ago helped 2 teams get beat on Saturday.
Interesting theory for sure, and a big win for Shane Beamer. The Vanderbilt Commodores, Travis, pick up their 2nd straight SEC win after a 2+ season streak of losses and SEC action. They knock off the Florida Gators in Nashville 31-24, the final score, a stunner. Down there in Gainesville, there's some moaning and groaning. I know it's Billy Napier's first year. I saw a snippet of his press conference anyway. He said, one of the things he said, Travis, he said, I saw a lot of Florida beating Florida out there. Well, they had Vanderbilt's name on the scoreboard,
That's the problem, Bill.
I don't know.
That's a tough one.
He's got a mess on his hands, Travis. Bottom line, they're discombobulated on offense. I think their defense has been pretty bad overall. It's like Jekyll and Hyde with Florida all over again.
It is, and it gets harder to sort of. It does in some ways anyway to talk about culture when you're 11 games into the season. Although we saw that in Nick Saban's first season at Alabama. Culture actually looked better in the first month and a half of Saban's first season. It was November when the levee sort of broke where Culture was concerned for some of those issues that he had. But no, that's a tough one for Napier because you had gone on the road and beaten A&M. You looked great at home against South Carolina, starting to turn the corner, going to ramp up to that regular season ending matchup in Tallahassee with Florida State, and bloop.
Looking ahead to those.
Now the Gators are a 9-point dog going to Tally on Friday. That's interesting, right? Friday night game. I like it. I don't like it for the high school playoffs. I don't like that.
Right.
Because we hear college football people complain about the NFL stepping into the college football territory with Thursday night games and Saturday later in the season in the playoffs. Well, what is college football doing this week with the Friday games and Friday night games, not just Friday during the day games, but Florida State at night?
Get that game back on Saturday for sure. Get them all back on Saturday. I don't like college
if you want to play it Friday, play it at noon. Play it at noon or play it at 2:30 or whatever. Yeah. But try to stay out of Friday night if you can.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think prime time's the point, unfortunately, because they don't want the competition on Saturday.
There's not a more traditional high school football Friday. You know this, and I know it because we've been around it extensively in our past. There's not a more traditional high school football Friday than the Friday playoff round after Thanksgiving, right?
Yep.
I mean, when you think about high school football, you think about the Friday after Thanksgiving because that's typically playoffs everywhere. And it's considered to be just a milestone if you're a high school team and you're practicing on Thanksgiving Day because that means you're playing on that Friday night. And you go to a lot of these places, teams are eliminated. You're getting down to 12 teams or so in a certain classification, something 16, something like that. And the crowds get bigger and bigger because the games are more and more limited, right?
Right.
Just a
I'm with you.
Rant there.
I'm with you for sure. All right, we'll close it out quickly discussing Arkansas's win over Ole Miss 42-27. Sounded like air out of the sails for Ole Miss to me, Travis, because they just gotten eliminated from the SEC West race the week prior, and then they turn around and lay an egg against Arkansas. The running game, though, that didn't lay any egg. This was unreal, Travis. I don't know if I've ever heard of this in college football before or any football. 3 200-yard rushers in the game. Ole Miss had 2 of them, and Arkansas had 1 of them.
Yeah.
And Ole Miss ends up with 703 yards of total offense, can only score 27 points. I don't know how you do that. 3 turnovers will help get you there for sure. But just and I wish I'd seen more of the game. I have it on DVR. I can go back and watch it if I want to. But the tackling had to be absolutely atrocious.
And it also makes you wonder about Lane, and understanding Ole Miss a different situation than what he would be in at Alabama. But that's one of those type of performances after a high-profile loss like Alabama where it ends up being a 2-loss sort of deal instead of just 1. But give Sam Pittman a lot of credit. That's also kind of where he specializes. They had the tough loss to LSU the previous week. Looked like they got KJ Jefferson back, and Rocket Sanders sort of low key here the last season and a half or so. It's just been really, really good at the running back position for the Hogs.
No doubt about it. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Talkin Tide podcast. Catch our Iron Bowl preview coming up a little bit later this week. For Travis Reier of BamaOnline.com, I'm Chase Goodbread of the Tuscaloosa News and Crimson Cover Television. We'll talk to you next time right here on Talkin Tide.